Hey, what is up, team? Brandon here from Go Headquarters, and today let's go through a little core burner. So I've had some requests for an ab workout, so here it is. Kicking things off with 3 rounds. We're gonna do 10 sit-ups. This is just gonna get kind of our big motion going. So just 10 plain Jane sit-ups. Make sure your shoulder blades touch the ground at the bottom and you sit up past 90 degrees at the top, referring to your spine, okay? So 10 of those, nice and easy. Then what we wanna do, I wanna open up the midsection just a little bit by doing Cobra. So I'm gonna start with my chest down, hands outside my chest, and I'm gonna roll up 1 vertebrae at a time. This is just trying to open up that abdominal wall of tissue just a little bit and get your back into extension, because so many of these moves are going to put us into flexion. So we want to kind of open up the other direction here for a moment. So let's go back and forth, 3 rounds, 10 sit-ups, and then just a little bit of Cobra time. You can maybe hold Cobra for anywhere from 10 to 30 seconds. So 3 rounds of that. Then we're going to do 3 rounds of crossover crunches and scissor kicks. So for your crossover crunch, laying down on your back, what we're going to do is have your knees about 90 degrees. I'm going to take my right ankle and I'm going to cross it over my left thigh. So that looks about like that. Now what I'm going to do is hands behind the head. I'm going to take my left elbow and crunch it towards my right knee. Okay, so I'm taking that shoulder and elbow towards that knee. And I'm going to do 15 of these each side. So one thing to be aware of, well, 2 things. One is don't bring your knee to you, because then that limits your crunch height. And then number 2 is don't just flash your elbow up there. Make sure you're actually covering the distance with your abdominals, right? So leave that knee away, leave that elbow back, so that you're trying to take that shoulder closer to that side. Then of course we need to switch sides and go the other way. So this has a little twist component to it, right? So let's do 15 of those on each side. Then I like to put my hands palms down under my butt and we're gonna do scissor kicks. So lock the knees, point the toes, and then we're gonna travel 90 degrees from our hip joint, okay? So I'm gonna maintain my crunch because A, that keeps my abs nice and tight, and then B, as a byproduct, it's pinning my low back into the ground that whole time. But then I'm thinking about keeping those legs straight and those toes pointed, making that nice and pretty. So that's a really tough combination. So 3 rounds, 15 each side on your crossover crunch, and then 15 per leg on your scissor kicks. Then in a similar fashion, we're gonna do 3 rounds of bicycle crunches and then a front plank. So your bicycle crunch, similar to the crossover in the sense that we have that little oblique twisting action going. So I'm pedaling my feet out. When you bring your knee in, just bring your knee above that hip joint. Don't pull it in beyond it, because again, just like that crossover crunch, it actually stuffs your ability to stay nice and high in a crunch. So your legs should only come into this vertical thigh position, but then extend out nice and low. Meanwhile, you're leaving your elbows back and rotating the trunk, but I'm keeping my shoulders up nice and high off the ground. So that's your bicycle crunch. So we're gonna do 15 of those each side. Then we're just gonna hold the front plank for 30 seconds. So I've got my shoulder above my elbow. I'm going to lay out in a nice straight line, and I'm gonna squeeze my butt, my quads, my abs nice and tight, and I'm just gonna hold here for 30 seconds. The most common faults here being butt too high, butt too low. And of course that's causing me a lot of extra low back pressure because my back is swayed and I'm not supported. So I need to tighten up my butt and my belly to neutralize all of that. So that combination, 3 rounds, 15 per leg, or per side bicycle crunches, and then just a 30-second front plank hold. So by now we're probably breaking down pretty good and needing to take some breaks to ensure quality of movement, right? So we've got one more bracket, guys. We're gonna do some side planks. So some obliques here. So if you're capable, do this with legs stacked on top of one another. But again, we've got shoulder above the elbow, top hand is on the hip maybe, and then we're tapping our hip to the ground gently and raising as high as we can. So we're working the obliques down here towards the floor. Now scaling this, if that's too heavy, bend the knees, and we can do the same action, but now that's a lot lighter. You can also take that top hand and help assist a little bit, okay? So 15 of those each side, and then we're gonna do some reclined twists. So for this move, we're gonna lay back, propped up on our elbows. Okay, so my legs are straight. I'm kind of in this recliner position. I'm relatively comfortable here until I start moving. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to opposites. So I'm gonna lift my left leg in a straight fashion while I crunch up and try to touch that toe with my right arm. So this is in opposites. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stay on one side and tap my elbow back to the reclined position and then try to reach and tap that toe. So I'm trying to keep that leg straight, right? So I'm gonna do 10 of these reclined twists on one side, and then I'll switch so you guys can see what's happening on this arm. So I do return it to the floor each time, back to that reclined state. Okay, so 10 of those each side. So that's your last bracket of the day. 3 rounds, 15 per side planks for those obliques, and then 10 per side reclined twists. So give that entire routine a try. That should have you pretty lit up through the midsection. Let me know how it goes. We'll see you next time.